I Dukes on weekends, waking up at like 6, man, you don't get paid if you sleepin', man, you don't know where I come from, you don't know what I've been through, realize I don't say shit about all the bread that I sent you, you getting mad, I'm sitting back, I'm fucked up, I'm getting trash, gotta go watch 2 gold chains and a gold grill like Trinidad, trick, I'm the man, act like you know me, popping off like a semi, man, I rap like it's loaded, I mean my crew hot, your crew not, we too sick, no flu shot, on this side, it's all big, man, I ain't dissing.
Alright, what is up guys? Welcome to another episode of Boosted Rides and Power Slide, and this is the most asked thing. As I was doing the fenders, everybody wanted to know what everything was, the cost, Today, we're going to be going over everything. The amount of time it took, the amount of work it took, what the product was, how much it costs, and where you can get it. So without further ado, let's get into this Fender Flare review. Alright guys, so the Fender Flares will hit number 1 on the list. Most asked question, what Fender Flares are these? These are clinched over fenders. You go to the Clinched website, and I'll have maybe a link right here. So the fronts are the 7mm glider over fenders, and yes, these are all universal, they can fit for any car. And then the rears are the slider 7cm over fenders. Yes, it's 7 centimeters. So I have the smaller Fender Flares, and you could obviously get the bigger ones. They have 12mm or 12 centimeter ones, sorry, that are just absolutely ridiculous if you're trying to get the craziest specs in the world. But for my purposes, I went with the 7 centimeters, and it obviously, as you can tell, it's pretty bitchin'. Fronts, I believe the gliders are $210 for the pair, and the rears are the sliders for the rear are $240, I believe, and they come not from the US, so it takes a little bit to get here. Or it took mine about, I want to say, almost a month, maybe 3 weeks to get to me, but wait, was well worth it because the product and the final result is freaking awesome. So getting into the Fender Flares, to attach the Fender Flares to the car, what I used were rivets. Obviously, like everybody has rivets in their over fenders, but what I used is these Stanley rivets. These ones right here are the length. I used a 1.5 inch, a 1/4 of an inch, and then I used smaller ones as well. It's an assortment of lengths of rivets, but they are a 3/16 or 5mm diameter. So these are the biggest rivets that I could get in the store because I wanted them to be sturdy and thick, and if they were to, you know, I didn't really want anything to break. And then the way that you attach these to a car, or anything, is with a rivet gun. Now, over the course of these projects of putting on my wing and the fenders, I have 2 rivet guns. The first rivet gun that I purchased, $17. This thing sucks. Don't get it. Because you put the rivet in there, you try and pop the rivet, because the way that it works is the rivet goes in the end of this, and it pulls the head of the rivet, 2 parts of the rivet. There's like a nail piece and then the rivet piece. What this does is it takes like the nail end of it and pulls it through the rivet and essentially sandwiches the 2 pieces of metal together. And so this one, the stem that needs to get pulled through to sandwich that rivet together, breaks them off without fully pulling the rivet through and sandwiching it together. This one does a great job of pulling that head and like sandwiching it together. But once you squeeze it once, normally you can kind of move the rivet gun like down and fix the position of it so that you can get a better grip, or you can get, you know, the best result from this. And it has no movement. Once it's like you squeeze it once, you're kind of screwed, because if you can't squeeze it all the way, then it's going to be stuck there, and you're going to have an extra length of rivet where you're squeezing it, but it's not doing anything because it's not pulling any resistance against it. So yeah, I would suggest investing in a better rivet gun. This one was $9, the Stanley one, and it sucked. $17 Harbor Freight one also sucks. So I suggest investing in a better rivet gun if you're going to be using rivets, because you don't want to be aggravated breaking rivets. I've spent money on a rivet gun and it's just absolutely shitty. That's how I attached the Fender Flares to the cars, with the rivets, and then we went over all the rivet gun and everything. The next thing, the biggest thing that people absolutely hate the idea of is cutting your fenders. Now, there is tons of controversy and people have mixed feelings about cutting your fenders. And I'm not going to say that it isn't nerve-wracking, but you kind of have to power through that. If you have an idea of what you want your car to look like, and you have this dream of getting here, there's some steps that you're going to have to take along the way that maybe aren't the most ideal, but in order to get there, you got to power through it. And so, manning up and cutting your fenders is what it's got to take. Well, what it took for me to get these fenders on the car and achieve the look that I wanted. And so, the biggest thing, my biggest problem with cutting the fenders was not actually cutting the fenders. It was battling the compressor and the tools, like the grinders, the angle grinders that I used to cut these things. Like my compressor would run out of air after I would get like a quarter of an inch of a way, like cut through this fender, and then I'd have to sit there for like 10 minutes and wait for my compressor to build back air, and then try and cut it again. And so it was super aggravating doing that, especially when you get to the rear, because not only does it have this front piece that you cut off, once you cut this off, it's sandwiched to like an inner liner, and then you have to cut that inner liner as well. And so it's a lot of work. It was actually a lot more work than I had expected. I think in total, to cut the fenders, to rivet the fenders on, get everything on the ground with the spacers on, in total probably took me a total of, I want to say, over 16 hours of work. So if you're planning on trying to do this over a weekend or in one day, I mean, you might want to rethink your strategy there, because I think in total for the front, it took me about 4 hours to get them cut and riveted on there. Because not only do you have to, cut it and stuff, you have to do all the measurements before that. So that, all the prep work that it takes before you even get to cutting and drilling and riveting, there's a lot of like measuring to do. You always hear the term, measure twice, cut once. And that was kind of the idea. I measured everything like 3, 4, maybe 5 times, because I wanted it to be as even as possible, as well as, the best fitment that I can make. I took all the measurements possible to get it to look the way that I wanted it to look. And that takes a long time. It spent over the course of 4 days, where I took one day to do the front 2 fenders. I took a second day to put on one of the rears. I took a third day to put on another rear, and then a whole other separate day to put on the spacers, because they didn't come in the mail. I could have done that on the same day as I put on the last fenders, but hey, you can't make the mail ship any faster than they want to, because we all know that the mail works on their terms, not yours. Alright, so now that we've gone over everything that it takes to get the fenders on, from the time, the prep, and the tools that I used to get this thing on, the wing is very similar. I used the rivets just the same, drilled into it as you guys saw. It took a lot more work to get that wing on there than the fenders, because it's made of such a thicker plastic than what the fenders were, and so it took a lot more heat and a lot more manipulation to get that thing to conform to the shape of the Genesis. But the brand of the wing, everybody's asking me where I got this wing. This wing is a replica Rocket Bunny wing. And matter of fact, it's a knockoff replica Rocket Bunny wing. It's not even fiberglass, it's plastic. And I got it from eBay. I know all you guys are gonna go crazy about that. I got it from eBay for like $100, but I made it look the way that I wanted it to look. And it suits my purposes. If you guys don't like it, I know some of you guys absolutely love it and think it's insane, but if you guys don't like it, I mean, it's kind of like, it's my car, it's the way that I wanted to build it, and it's the way that I wanted it to look. The way that I mounted it, I didn't mount it completely flush to the car intentionally, because I wanted it to sit raised up, kind of like a Rocket Bunny BRZ type wing. So with my wing, some people already had negative things to say about the wing, and now I'm not essentially going to, I don't want to attack anybody. I want to take a break and say, to anybody who's building their car, if you are going to take the time to build your car and put the effort into it to put whatever you want on there to make it your own, if people don't like it, that's their own opinion. They're entitled to that, but don't allow their negative feedback to make you think that it's not cool or it's not you know, that it's not worthy or whatever people have to say about it, you know, it's their opinion. This is your car, you build it the way that you want to. And the thing is a lot of people have a problem saying, well, you could have bought this, you could have bought that, you could have bought this would have fit better. And it's like, I got this intentionally. I know that it wasn't gonna fit the greatest, and it's like, reason that I don't just buy things like off the shelf that are gonna perfectly fit, because it's cookie cutter. Everybody else could buy the same thing off the shelf, put it on, and it looks exactly the same. For me, I like the creative process and the creativity of making something your own. Even if it's not really meant for your car, putting the work in there and doing it all yourself, there's something to be said for that, as well as, you know, it makes you feel good. You can look back at it and appreciate all the hard work and effort that you put into it to make it look like this. And regardless if people love it or if they hate it, everybody's gonna have an opinion, and that opinion should not affect how you feel about your car. And guys, this doesn't only apply to like things that you have already done to your car. This applies to things that you want to do to your car. Don't let doing something or wanting to do something and people's reactions or thoughts about doing that deter you from doing it. You can have the most crazy professional build. People build their cars on TV and this and that, and from leaving your car stock to building the most crazy car in the world. People will always have an opinion, and people will always disagree with what you're doing, regardless of what it is. Leaving your car stock, people will disagree with you leaving your car stock. Oh, you should do this or you should do that. If you have this crazy, insane build, regardless of the quality of the work, people are going to say, you know, there's still something that I would have done differently. And that's okay, because that's what they would have done and not what you would have done. In the end, it's your car. Do whatever you feel that you want with it. So now that we have finished talking about the fenders and putting on the wing and everything, all this and that type of crap, let's transition into now what we are working for. So, clean culture. I know I have said this a million times, but I will be at Clean Culture on November 27th at the Dodger Stadium. So my car had gotten accepted as like a VIP submission car. Not in a VIP class, but like special entry. My car will be inside like the main event of their show. And so I'm really excited for that, like beyond belief. I didn't even think my car was gonna make it, and then literally they responded to me within a day saying that they accepted my car and they're glad to have me on. And so with that, there's so many things, like, you know, I wanna fix the front grille, change the wheel color. I appreciate your guys' feedback about saying, you know, let's just make the whole car the same color, or the gray color, paint match it, and then change the wheels to the cherry red. I'm kind of feeling the cherry red. I think we might do that. A lot of people have already said red, so I think that's what we're gonna go with. I think we're gonna change the wheel color to red. And you guys, tell me what type of red you guys think, because I'm thinking of like maybe a candy apple red, maybe like a matte red, maybe, and I'm thinking deeper reds. I don't know what you guys are thinking, if you guys are thinking like a hot, vibrant red or like a deep maroon color. I don't know, let me know in the comments down below. I'm excited that you guys are commenting, and I'm excited that you guys are as excited as I am about going. So with that, that's gonna have to be it for this episode. If you guys like this video, smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. We out.